At this point, it almost seems like law enforcement doesn't want to find Nancy Guthrie. I'm not at all saying that is the case. I'm just saying that it seems that way. The only real news conference that was done was 4 days after the kidnapping.
Please give us some space, and that's not just physical space. Give us some space, give my team some time.
The sheriff has apparently refused to have any news conference in telling people what's going on and to direct the public's attention to what needs to be directed to help find Nancy Guthrie.
Mama, great job. Love you. Thank
Love
you.
you, honey.
We're back in a moment. This is Today on NBC.
Because as of now, we don't know for sure what happened to Nancy Guthrie. We all suspect and think at this point that she sadly has passed, but there's no indication, there's no evidence specifically of that, other than the fact that there was blood at the scene and she's 84 years old with heart issues.
We still believe that she can come home.
So theoretically, she still could be alive, and it really seems like there's no urgency at all in this case. So given that fact, where are the national media news conferences? Nope, they're not doing them.
My local media, you all have the same privileges. I know the national media is crazy to sometimes they're like jackals.
They apparently don't want the national media attention and don't want the attention of the entire nation to help find this missing person.
We're done with press conferences. We got a lot of work to do.
Most missing persons cases would love to have this type of media attention. But nope, not this sheriff, because he doesn't want to gain national media attention to help find Nancy Guthrie here. This is what I mean when it seems like they don't want to find her. When you want to find somebody, you try to get as many people possible to look for the person.
And the sheriff's office actually put out a statement, almost kind of like telling people not to search in a sense, which was kind of interesting.
The sheriff's department has actually discouraged citizen searches.
When you don't want to find the person, you try to have as few people as possible looking for the person.
The way our organization works is we come in falling under the command and control of the local law enforcement. And the last thing we want to do is self-deploy or go in without any permission and then potentially contaminate a crime scene or an investigation.
And what has the response been from the sheriff?
None.
Think back when you were a child playing hide and seek. Was it easier to find the person when you were just alone or when you had a whole group of people trying to find the person who was hiding?
And there was really no interest.
Is that unusual in your experience?
It is.
It's quite simple math. The more people looking for somebody, the more likely you're going to find that person.
We do have thermal drones. We've got subject matter experts when it comes to search and rescue. We've also got K-9 teams that are well qualified and have a lot of experience as well.
So if they gave you a big area to search that they haven't been able to get to, you could do it?
Absolutely.
Our mom was taken in the dark of night from her bed.
And we're just finding out now, after it seems like we've been getting gaslit for the past few weeks, that Nancy was sadly abducted
from her bed.
This whole time, law enforcement was like, oh, why do you say they broke in from the back? Why do you say they broke in at all? Who said that? Who ever confirmed any of that?
Someone had mentioned there was forced entry. I have no clue where that comes from.
And then now we finally find out that she was indeed abducted from her bed. I think we all understand the importance of certain evidence remaining private in order to possibly validate a perpetrator when he goes in for questioning. However, some of the basic facts of the case is important for the public to know, so you can not only crowdsource ideas, and ideas can come to light, but also for neighbors in the community to think back to odd occurrences on or around the date of that event.
The time frame of when this car went by this Ring camera could be significant because it seems to match up with when we know that Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her phone. Sheriff's office apparently did not have the video up until today. The Sheriff's Office and FBI never came by to get this video. So it wasn't until Fox Digital obtained the video and then sent it to the FBI.
Where they can look back at their home security camera footage and look for odd occurrences, possibly something similar that may have occurred at their home.
It is alarming to think that neighbors in the area did not have a knock on their door by a representative of the Pima County Sheriff's Office asking them to check their Ring camera footage and reviewing it with them. I think this might be a manpower issue, but in my mind, there's really no excuse.
If they would have done that immediately and said, okay, let's go and set up a perimeter way out here and then start moving in to see if there's anybody that saw anything, that would be very helpful. But law enforcement does not evolve. And obviously, this sheriff is stuck in yesteryear and has not evolved either in the way that he does things.
So immediately in a big case like this, if law enforcement actually wants to catch the person, what they should do is tell the neighbors and the entire community to save their camera footage and look back to see if there's any odd occurrences that have been captured.
It's video that almost always solves this. So the idea that people around the corner never got a knock on their door or just a written notice, please check your security footage and call us if you have anything at all, that's disturbing.
I really don't appreciate the sheriff coming out and telling people, if you don't have proof, don't call him. If it's just an idea, don't call him. It may be nothing, but there may be something. I just would not push any of that away.
Of course, solid DNA evidence at the crime scene is ideal. However, video surveillance footage can break open this case.
Yeah, we had questions about it really from the beginning, because why would he be wearing the backpack in one on the right side of your screen and then no backpack on the left? And it turns out, according to our sources, the reason is because the pictures are from different days, which is really, really significant, Connell, because that means, and the one on the left, I am told, is from a previous day, which means that this suspect could have been casing the house. That there was really some planning that went into this. Now, the sheriff has pushed back on this and said it's just speculation.
Now, despite initially being told that all that doorbell footage was taken the same night, we're starting to believe that it was not taken that same night. And there was one specific picture. It was this picture right here that was taken, is believed to be on January 11th, 3 weeks before this abduction had occurred.
The sheriff has only said that, quote, any suggestion that the photographs were taken on different days is purely speculative.
Is it definitely the same jacket? No. So it could potentially be a different person. We don't know the answer to that. Yeah, it's interesting that they didn't tell us this initially, and it's still not officially coming from the sheriff's office. I mean, these are just sources that we have that are confirming it. Why they didn't want us to know.
However, oddly, the sheriff doesn't want to confirm or deny that. But again, it's so important for the public to know. Do you know why?
If they gave us an exact date, it would actually make it easier for people to go back through their cameras to say, okay, if you knew it was January 11th, if they told everybody that, that would be easier to do than saying, hey, look through a month worth of videos.
Yes, it will allow the community to look into their security camera footage to see if they see anything odd on or around January 11th. Also, this is where a press conference would be very helpful, of course.
Right now, I have no plans to schedule any further press conferences unless we have some real evidence or something to bring up to you.
Because they can tell the community what they're looking for, so that the tips that law enforcement gets are better quality, so that the public just doesn't send anything in, bogging down their process. However, the sheriff refuses to have a national press conference to help tell the public what to look out for and what they need from the public. It's either pure incompetence or he just has no desire to find Nancy. One or the other, I think, at this point.
Today, another law enforcement source familiar with the investigation has said that the pattern of that blood inside the house matches the pattern outside the house.
We're only finding out now that there are similar blood droplets that were found inside Nancy's home that we saw outside of Nancy's home by her front door.
We need her to come home. For that reason, we are offering a family reward of up to $1 million for any information that leads us to her recovery.
Looks like the family wanted it raised and we're told not to.
She wanted to, really right when this whole thing started, put up a reward like this, but was apparently told by law enforcement not to do it.
And now we understand that the Guthrie family was advised not to put up a larger amount.
Initially, the reward was a ridiculous $5,000. Then they finally upped it to $50,000.
We're going to start today by announcing a $50,000 reward.
Then they were like, okay, we'll do a few extra $100,000.
The FBI posting, they are increasing the reward to $100,000.
Still, you need to really up the reward really high in order to get people close to the suspect to turn in the suspect. The point of a high reward is not just to get more tips, it's to get better tips. Someone watched that security footage and in their mind they were thinking, I know that person. I'm pretty sure that's this guy.
Someone out there knows something that can bring her home. Somebody knows. We are begging you to please come forward now.
However, their loyalty to that person is preventing them from turning in the suspect.
Please be the light in the dark.
For example, Would a girlfriend turn in their boyfriend for $5,000? Well, it depends how bad of a boyfriend he was, right? Would a girlfriend turn in a boyfriend for $50,000? However, if the reward is $1 million, how many girlfriends would turn in their boyfriend? It would probably go up to 99%.
You can then pick up that reward at a neutral location that's decided, often a place like a post office. That reward will likely be given to you in cash. And all you have to do is show that unique PIN number that's associated with your tip. You do not need to show your ID. Experts say it is really not traceable and no questions asked.
Also, if there's any accomplices involved, $1 million will surely break that loyalty, where one accomplice may turn in the other accomplice.
So congratulations, you've just become a $2 million lottery ticket. Except the odds are much, much better. Do you know anyone that wouldn't turn you in for $2 million? I don't think you do. I doubt it. So wherever you go and whatever you do, this money will be tracking you down for all time.
High rewards break loyalty. And if there was a high reward from the beginning, it's much more possible that Nancy Guthrie would be returned alive.
She reportedly wanted a high reward from the very beginning, but police kind of feared false leads from that.
Pure stupid that anyone in law enforcement told Susanna Guthrie not to offer a $1 million reward early on in this case.
The new $1 million reward is bringing in hundreds of new tips. The FBI telling us that about 750 possible new leads have flooded in since the latest plea from Susanna Guthrie.
Psychologically, high rewards just don't get more tips, they get better tips.
We also know that she may be lost. She may already be gone.
In this video message here, Savannah and her family seem to be coming to the realization that their mother is sadly dead. However, there's actually a possibility that she's not dead. And here's a scenario of possibly what happened to Nancy.
But why take the body? This case, just the more you look at it, the less and less it makes any sense.
Given how confusing the motive is in this case, it's actually possible that the abductor of Nancy is one of possibly Susanna's stalkers who couldn't get to Susanna, so they went after Nancy as what's called a softer target. So it's possible this sick person or people still has Nancy, and it's sort of like their trophy because they feel like it's the person that everyone wants to get, and now they are the ones that still have her, and for them, they feel special in a sick way that they have somebody that everyone in the world is looking for.
You explained how easy it would be to transport somebody there, how easy it would be to get the medications that she would need to survive at a Mexican pharmacy.
So that's one of few very slim possibilities of how Nancy Guthrie could possibly still be alive at this point.
Remember, they sent the DNA to their private lab in Florida that the sheriff's office uses. The FBI wanted it to go to Quantico, but the sheriff decided to send it to Florida. Now he says they're having challenges because the DNA is mixed. And he said over the weekend that the issues could be a delay of weeks, months, but then he said, or even a year, which was sort of shocking.
The genetic genealogy process, that could take up to a year or even more.
Now the DNA that was found in the home, yeah, that's considered now mixed DNA, and the local lab that the sheriff decided to send it to locally instead of to Quantico, where the FBI lab is, and they do this all day long, and they're really good at it, doing really, really fast and overcoming any obstacles.
The sheriff has called them challenges. We've learned that the DNA that was found inside Nancy's home was only a partial sample. That's what they're calling it, according to our sources, and they're saying that it is not viable to be entered into the CODIS database.
Because it's mixed DNA, and it's a small amount, and it's not very high quality either. It seemed like everyone in this case, you, the media, even the FBI, wanted that DNA to be sent to Quantico. However, despite all of that pushback, the sheriff decided to just send it to his local lab instead.
We have a lab that is certified that we do crime scenes with all the time. I can tell my lab, I need it now. and it's within 24 hours.
Where if he just would have sent it to Quantico like we all told him to do, it would have been more likely to be found out of whose DNA it is. It's because if any lab in the world can do this, it's going to be Quantico, because they are the ones who developed this technology and are at the cutting edge of this technology. However, it's quite difficult to just package up what they currently do have and just ship it over to Quantico. You know why? Yes, it's because that local lab already tampered with that DNA and was using inferior technology than what Quantico would have been using. You can't make this shit up.
But then there were several darkly tinted SUVs that showed up, and you can see this group of what I believe is law enforcement. Some people thought maybe they were prosecutors because they're dressed, they're very dressed fancy, right in front of Nancy's house. They were looking at the doorway, the area where we saw the blood. They were really focused on the front of the house. Then they walked around to the side of the house, a group of them. We had our drone up. They were in the back of the house and on the side of the house. And then there was this other black SUV that showed up. This was what really interested me. Went into Nancy's garage. They opened the garage, the SUV went in, and then they closed the garage.
Black SUVs come in. I think it was the prosecutor and maybe some other people involved in the case.
Authorities are reportedly turning Nancy Guthrie's home back to her family.
Almost like a final sweep before it's officially turned back over to Nancy's family.
26 days into the search, 2 federal law enforcement sources tell NBC News officials are working on turning Nancy Guthrie's home back over to her family.
Which is completely odd, because what's the urgency to do that? There's no urgency for the Guthrie family to reclaim that house. What's the urgency? What are they going to do with it? No one from the family has to or wants to live there this soon.
A man began placing security cameras high onto the exterior of Guthrie's home. He placed 2 along the front of the house and 1 off to the side, sort of behind the garage area.
Why not wait a few more months until you have a suspect? Because the suspect's defense team and the defense attorneys are going to want to access the crime scene for their investigation. But what do you think that will do?
Monday morning quarterback, I probably would have, but I'll say this. We processed the scene. We got what we thought was complete. My team did that.
Yes, that will likely also highlight the sheriff's many mistakes of crime scene contamination and crime scene mismanagement. So releasing it back to the family is possibly his way of obfuscating his many mistakes in this high-profile trial.
Well, there's not only frustration in the community here, there's actually frustration within the Pima County Sheriff's Department as well. I've had sources tell me from within the agency that there is a great deal of leadership issues here.
The search and rescue was called off 24 hours after she was abducted, only to be called back on when the FBI got involved. And there's so much more. And if you want to know more about all that other stuff that we're not covering in this video, but is still all the mismanagement and mistakes that the sheriff and law enforcement made in this case, it's in my prior video.
Local authorities also plan to restrict public parking on Nancy's street starting today.
Here's a look at that parking enforcement going into place officially today in the foothills in that Estates neighborhood near Nancy Guthrie's home.
And now all of a sudden they've apparently passed this new ordinance where they're going to create a no parking zone in this entire neighborhood to move the media out.
Now the sheriff and law enforcement are kicking out the media vehicles that are parked on the street that are covering this case, reducing the chances that this case will be covered by national media.
So it's pretty clear they want the media to leave. Most of the neighbors who I've met have been happy that we're here. Honestly, it might sound kind of weird, but this one lady I talked to the other day was saying we love Nancy and we feel like if you leave, everybody's going to forget. I don't know what we're going to do. They're just putting the no parking ordinance in effect, but they're not saying you can't actually be here without a car. So we may try to figure out how to do that, although it'll be hard without a car because that's where we get our power. Although we may get a generator. So all the media is kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do next. Not letting anyone park in the entire neighborhood. They passed this ordinance trying to keep the media out.
Even though most of the neighbors reportedly want the media there because they feel like if they're around, they're covering the case and this case will go cold and it's more likely that Nancy will be found. Also, they feel like it keeps their neighborhood safe.
Not to mention some, I think, just feel safer with more people in the neighborhood right now with everything going on.
Their neighbor was forcibly abducted from their house. Naturally, the neighbors are going to feel a little uneasy in that neighborhood. The best chance of finding Nancy is if you have the entire nation focused on this case and looking for Nancy. If you kick out the media, then all of a sudden, you're going to have a lesser chance of finding Nancy.
We know this sheriff, he denies it, but we know from his earlier statements he can't stand the FBI.
It's now coming out more and more that this sheriff has an uncooperative history with the FBI and seems to want to hold on to this case to prove a point.
He has a bad history with them. He does not like them. They've investigated his department.
I think we all recognize that we're all human. We all make mistakes. We're not perfect at all. However, when you make mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, and you're continuing to make these mistakes, and you're not correcting these mistakes, it's hard to see how what they're doing is anything other than deliberate. I think it's selfishly deliberate.
How do we look at this as just normal folks and say it's anything other than the sheriff really profoundly messing things up?
Maybe because they made so many mistakes along the way where they have no leads at this point because of so many mistakes, and they just don't want the media attention in this case to amplify and for everyone to know of all the mistakes that were made in this case. It could be something selfish like that. But it just feels like with everything going on and how this case is being handled, they sadly just don't want to find Nancy. One of the biggest mistakes that the Guthrie family made was trusting law enforcement way too much. It appears that they just put all of their cards with law enforcement and were like, well, you tell us what to do. You tell us what needs to be done and we'll do it. That sometimes works if you have very competent people leading the case. But if you don't, you're going to wish you had your own private advisors in a case like this. We all hope that Nancy Guthrie is found safe and returned to her family soon. Now in the comments, why do you think it seems that law enforcement doesn't want to find Nancy Guthrie? Do you think it's incompetence? Do you think it's some self-pride? Do you think it's something nefarious? What's your theory? Let everyone know in the comments below. Subscribe for more. And if you want exclusive content and channel perks, hit that join button now below because your support makes all of this possible. Yeah, it was starting to feel a little bit like a cold case. Now, given that there's $1 million reward in this case from the family, it becomes more likely that someone close to the suspect will turn on the suspect, possibly breaking this case wide open. See you next time.